Hello and welcome back to Read Becca. We are here for a hot and possibly sunburned, slightly sweaty catch up on my week. So I just got back from the art fair, had a brilliant time, even though it was very warm. It's mid 80s here, so we're still, it's not quite summer, but it's still a little too hot for just hanging out outside for 2 hours straight with no shade, basically. But I was super glad that the art fair was back on. I used to go almost every year and didn't last year when they did start it back up last year, but it was clearly a smaller event in terms of space and the vendors that signed up, the artists. So they crammed it into a small area, but they still had a huge crowd and nobody was masking, of course, so I did not go. So this year I felt a little more comfortable. It seemed bigger than ever. It was really sprawled out over multiple streets. Just really lovely event. I got some art, of course, and had a wonderful time. So you'll see some footage of that later. So let's talk about books, and let's start with the books that I can't talk about. So the first one I can't talk about is The Phone Booth at the Edge of the World by Imai Messina, who is oddly an Italian author, and is translated from Italian by Lucy Rand. And this is about a tsunami that happened in Japan in 2011, March of 2011. And so after that happened, all of these people were grieving the loss of their loved ones, and this person set up the wind phone in a garden in a rural location where it's not hooked up to anything, but people could go there and seek solace and talk to their loved ones that they had lost. And so we're following mainly two characters, but they make connections with other people as they go kind of on routine pilgrimages to this wind phone to go talk to their loved ones because they're grieving and they're just not getting over it. So that's about all I can say in terms of plot. I can't talk about my thoughts because this is for the BookTube prize, which will be ending at the end of the month. So yeah, I've got another couple of weeks and one more book to read, and then you will get a full video review of this one on my thoughts. And then as a result of that one, Lindy from Lindy's Magpie Reads recommended me The Phone Booth in Mr. Hirota's Garden by Heather Smith, and Rachel Wada is the illustrator. So this is a children's book about this phenomena of the wind phone, which is, again, it's a real thing. Mr. Hirota is the man that actually created the phone. And so the story is all about a little boy who is there and experiences the tsunami, and it's very terrifying, and he does lose someone, and then he doesn't really know what to do afterward. So he hears his neighbor putting up something and then going into this phone booth that's not connected to anything and talking to someone who was lost in the tsunami, a family member. And so he goes down and sneaks down to the phone and decides to talk to his family member who was lost. And I just really enjoyed the style of this. It's very simple. It's, again, about grief and processing grief. The muted colors really worked well for me, and just a very painterly style, I would say. So I think it was quiet and beautiful, similar in tone to The Phone Booth at the Edge of the World. So I thought they really played well off of each other and gave us kind of the same content in different packages, really. So it was beautiful to see this little boy kind of learning to process grief. So I would really recommend that as an appropriate young child aged book for dealing with grief. So I will talk more about both of those when I do my individual review for after the BookTube prize is over. So those, and then one more, are what I finished this week. The one more that I finished is Hollow Kingdom by Kyra Jane Buxton. And I really love this. This will not be for everyone, that is for sure. So this is the story of a zombie apocalypse, basically. The humans have lost it, and we are following the perspective of ST, or Shitturd, a crow, and his dog, Dennis. So, I mean, that is pretty much the story. Like, that's the synopsis you'll see on the back of the book. It's very clear what the story is, but it's so much more than that, and that's down to the writing. So I'm gonna read you the first 2 paragraphs of the book so you can get the sense of that, because it's just very different. So kind of contrast paragraph 1 and paragraph 2 is what we're doing here. I should have known something was dangerously wrong long before I did. How do you miss something so critical? There were signs that were slow as sap, that amber lava that swallows up a disease-kissed evergreen, slow as a rattlesnake as it bleeds toward you, painting the grass with belly scales. But sometimes you only see the signs once you're on the highest branch of realization. So very beautiful, poetic prose there, right? So Jane Buxton can really write. And then paragraph 2, character voice. 1 minute, everything was normal. Big Jim and I were playing in the yard. We live together, you see. It's a platonic relationship with a zesty sprinkle of symbiosis. I get the perks of living with an employed electrician in a decent neighborhood of Seattle, and he gets his own private live-in funny man. Winner, winner, chicken dinner, which so happens to be a favorite of mine. So Big Jim and I were in the yard. We had a Pabst Blue Ribbon beer in hand, classic Big Jim, and was stooping intermittently to yank out a weed the size of a labradoodle. Things grow heartily in our state of Washington. Emerald moss, Honeycrisp apples, sweet cherries, big dreams, caffeine addiction, and acute passive aggression. We also legalized pot, to which Big Jim likes to poignantly screech, "Fuck yeah." So complete, it's amazing because you can tell it's the same writer, but the writing and the character voice are so different, so wildly different. And the character voice is so strong to this. He's clearly not a character that everyone or even most people are going to get along with because he's very brash. And that's as a result of his human, or his mofo, his mofo's influence. Because Big Jim, his human, calls all humans mofos. And he's clearly a redneck. He lives for trucks and guns. He likes he likes PBR, obviously, and he has a subscription to Big Butts magazine. So he's this very redneck, typical kind of guy. But then through the story, we also understand why ST for shitturd, why he understands him more to be this loyal friend who also is emotional. And so we get this duality to Big Jim's character. However, because of the zombie apocalypse, obviously Big Jim has become a zombie. And so ST and Dennis go on an epic journey. He initially is trying to figure out a way to cure Big Jim. He goes to the Walgreens and pulls out a whole bunch of random prescriptions thinking they will clearly heal Big Jim, and they don't. And then he finds a greater purpose. So I don't want to talk about the plot more than that. Obviously, I've talked about the writing there. I think there is a lot to this in terms of difficult content because there's a huge amount of animal death and human death and cruelty as this pandemic happens, basically a zombie outbreak. The animals are under a ton of threat from their owners, the domesticated animals, and wild animals are ever increasingly encroaching, he's seeing. So there's this big clash between humanity and animals. And so I think that is a pretty blunt thing, to the point of literally at points humans eating animals that are known to them. And so that's a clear commentary on humans eating animals as we do now. And then there's also a big technology element as well that I think was really smartly done too. So I think there's some clear messaging to this that is not heavy-handed at all. I think it's present and blunt, as I said, but not really heavy-handed, and it's not like trying to tell you anything. So I think there's subtext to this that I thought was really good. There is also really a lot of heart to this. As I said, there's our main character here really has a brash and crude sense of humor and personality, but he still loves his human. He really loves this dog, and he's trying to embrace this greater purpose and understand his place in the world without humans. And if he can learn from this love that he has for humans that other animals don't. So I think there was that. I am a little confused about who this book is actually for, because as I said, there's a lot of animal harm, animal violence, and animal death in here, but it clearly loves animals. This is a book that has such passion for the animals. and such knowledge of the animals. Like it's literally blurbed by Helen McDonald on here. The pull quote is there, who wrote nonfiction about birds, and there is a huge element of birds in here. There's all kinds of various species of birds, but other animals as well. In between the standard chapters from ST's perspective, we are getting other different animals' perspectives in a single chapter. So we will jump to a camel in the Middle East as they're experiencing this. We will jump to an elephant. So it jumps around to these other characters, and they each have their own very distinct voice. So unlike ST, we're getting these completely different, some even have totally different prose styles. So almost like poetry or verse. It's really, really well written. But as I said, like I don't know who the reader is, because I loved it, and I did struggle with some parts to this, but it's very hard to sell to another animal lover because of how graphic it is. However, it's very absurd, so I mostly was able to get through it because of that, because it's just so ridiculous. Like, it's clearly a zombie novel, so you're going to have crazy scenarios and a lot of death, and it definitely has that. So yeah, I really, really enjoyed this. I'm looking forward to getting to the next one. I think it wrapped up with some quite poignant things. So I just want to, before I get to some major spoilers, because I do want to give some more like animal reader type spoilers for you, so that you can decide if this book is for you. And I want to leave the non-spoilery on something it kind of closes with. It doesn't give any like content, plots, spoilers, but it's just a really beautiful passage. It's going to sound a little off in terms of wording, because this is him talking to another person. I know what I've told you is true about how Mother Nature is not kind, but she is balanced. Every single one of us, from amoeba to blue whale to the tenacious bloom that dares to dream of tomorrow, have their own destiny fulfilling journey as long as their minds and hearts are open, and how we are all connected by a web that looks gossamer but is stronger than a chain link fence. And though nature is tough, she is always conspiring for your success, encouraging you to evolve. You can even hear her if you listen carefully. So I just thought that was really beautiful. And again, it goes back to, like, this author can really write. It's just gorgeous, gorgeous prose. So, spoilers. We'll start with the one important spoiler that's, it's technically a plot spoiler, but I'm not going to get into details. Does the dog die? Yes, the dog does die. So, unfortunately, we have two major characters who are dogs throughout the course of the story, and both of them do die. I would say, so for Dennis's death, it's absurd. It's absurd, but not in a throwaway sort of way. It's absurd in a way that just completely makes sense, that this sort of absurd thing would happen. It makes sense for the character. So yeah, it was really well handled, though, I think, because of what it drives afterward, the way that it turns the story and the impact that it has. So it then changes things and makes a real difference and drives something really meaningful, in fact, even out of this really absurd thing that happened. So it didn't feel emotionally manipulative to me or just throwaway. So I thought it was done really well. And then the second, like, major plot spoiler here, so this is like the big point of the plot, is also to do with animal stuff. So the big purpose that he finds is that he realizes that other domesticated animals are trapped in their homes. And so he goes on this epic journey to free domestic animals from their homes, and is figuring out, using all of the skills and tools that he can make to do this, to let them out. And for me, that was a lot more affecting and difficult than any of the zombie stuff. It was much more like sad and hard to process. So that was where I had my really hard moments reading this, was some of the depictions of what animals were going through because of that. And of course, animal deaths obviously were present there. So yeah, that was much harder than the actual zombie parts of animals dying for me. So I think those are my spoilery thoughts. Again, I really enjoyed this, though. I usually have such trouble with any sort of, animal cruelty. And this seemed like it's written from a place of real love for animals, but in this very absurd situation where nature has really gone wild. So that is it for Hollow Kingdom. Off to what I am reading currently. The stuff I'm in progress on, I have The Pretty One by Keah Brown. This is an essay collection. And we've got Bellman in Black by Diane Setterfield. I'm actually listening to the audio for this, which is narrated by Jack Davenport. And in ebook, I am working on The Unbalancing by RB Lemberg. That is an advanced copy that I need to get done this month. I forgot to mention that in my TBR for the month. I knew, like, it was in my mind. I had that, and I also have one more BookTube prize book, Disquiet, to finish. So I was aware those were on my TBR for the month, but I didn't mention them to you. So those will definitely be getting done in the next couple weeks on top of my mahoosive TBR. So I think that's it. Life stuff, all was good this week. It's still warm, but livably warm. As I said, the temperature has come down, but only into the mid 80s. But we've had much more tolerable weather to where I've been getting out walking. I mentioned the art fair. That was really, really fantastic. The setup was great. I didn't even realize till I was putting together the clips that I actually ate mushrooms, and the art that I bought is a mushroom. So it was a very shroomy day. I also went hiking this week. You'll see some clips of the park, and sadly, I didn't realize how much earlier it was getting dark, because I was for sure I'm gonna be done by 8, and we will definitely have some light, but like the sun will not have set totally by then. And I did make it back right by 8, like I had a couple minutes to spare. However, it was completely pitch black out already by that time. So I wound up having to walk through the woods for about 15 minutes in the dark. It was great fun. I was not at all alone. There were many other people out there, because I think we all planned poorly for how much earlier it's getting dark. So that means, though, that fall is on the way. So I adore the autumnal vibes, whether it's drizzly, rainy, overcast, or just the chill and the crisp air, the leaves falling. I have a really lovely tree, which you will eventually see probably in 2 months, that gets really nice red leaves. It's great. Other than cleaning up the leaves, which I'm not supposed to have to do, but I have so many that I always have to do some. That is it for the week stuff. In recommendations, I again failed at writing stuff down, as always. So I need to get better at that. But I have a couple, and they're good. So the first one is from Book Time with Elvis, and the title is clickbait, but the video is very much not. The title is Children Can't/Won't Read. So Mark did a great kind of video essay discussion on the topic of this recent like poll, or it was a poll/survey type thing, not a real research study. But basically people were asked if they had access to books in their home, and there was a pretty significant amount who said they didn't have books in their home. So he expounded on that topic, and I really enjoyed his thoughts. It's very obviously important to those of us who have massive shelves of books in our home. So it is kind of baffling to think of, like, I grew up with books, obviously, and that fostered my love for books. And so kids not having that access, does that mean they won't have that love for books, or are they able to just access ebooks more easily now? And they still have all the same access. So yeah, really interesting topic and discussion. And the second is Philip Chase. Dr. Philip Chase did a discussion of Ursula K. Le Guin's wonderful essay, Why Are Americans Afraid of Dragons? Talking about the puritanical drivers for why fantasy has been relegated to the genre ghetto. And this is from, I think, the 1970s. I have a load of Le Guin here. I've got that particular essay in her collection, The Language of the Night. And it's a wonderful essay, and I loved hearing him kind of break it down. So just fabulous, fabulous video. So I think that is it for me, and you'll have some enjoyable clips here of my evening hike that turned into pitch black and walk through the woods, and my lovely time at the art fair. So enjoy the clips and have a wonderful week. Kind of dark in here, but Cinnamon's not feeling very good today. Got some medicine. He's having a lazy Sunday nap. You're looking pretty pitiful over there, buddy. Gumbo, what are you doing? Why did you get yourself into the fireplace? Can you please not? Oh, cats. It's not even winter, and I've already lost my leg room. Looks like another one of my seed plants came up this year. This is a nice little happy morning glory. Got some tiny ones too. Why are you doing that? You're so weird. Ripley loves to just park at the top of the stairs.